Okay, so this evening we have a little time to talk about a book that came out about a month ago called Longing for Limitless Light. This is a, a book which is essentially on the sutra style of practice. The sutra is concerned with the union of the deep and the vast. The deep means emptiness, and the vast is the spreading of compassion through the infinity of emptiness. So we are the inheritors of two lineages. When we come into Dharma, we have the possibility of joining the lineage of light. This light has always been shining. But of course, where there is light, there is often shadow. So shadow is the place of samsara. In samsara, we find that we have our back to the light, and so our own shadow stretches out in front of us. So all the different styles of practice, so the shadow spreads out in front of us, and this gives rise to our experience of the world of solid phenomena. And all the different kinds of Dharma practices are designed to turn us away from the dark and towards the light. So this book offers many different practices which can help this. It begins in the usual way with refuge and bodhicitta. We take refuge because we are lost. We need to have some site of security that we can turn to in the face of all the many events that happen in our lives. And we develop a bodhicitta, or the mind of enlightenment, as the means to open our heart to the condition of others. When we live in the small world of our own shadow, we are concerned primarily with what happens to us. Are we getting what we want? Can we avoid what we don't want? So developing kindness or compassion, a genuine consideration for others, is both something virtuous in itself and a means of opening up the arena of our vision. When we think of the situation of others, some people have happier lives than us, some people have more difficult or miserable lives than us. Then we introduce more flavors into our range of experience. We, by valuing and honoring the experience of other people, it introduces more complexity into our lives. In this complexity is a defense against the sealing into ourselves, the collapsing of our focus into our own immediate concerns. So then the text, we go there, the book itself has many different chapters with different orientations. So the next stage is to develop merit, the accumulation of merit. Merit is the kind of bonus or the profit that comes from virtuous activity. In a sense, it's a way of thinking about positive karma. The general teaching on karma says that when you act on the world, if you have a negative intention, eventually you get the negative outcome. If you have a positive intention, eventually you get a positive outcome. So this gives us the sense that the immediacy of an action has a reverberation or an energetic formation which can manifest in later time. So this is when it's concerned with this positive energy, it gets called a merit, and it becomes a force or a potential which we can direct. We can direct it towards our own benefit or towards the benefit of all beings. And there is a basic principle of spiritual mathematics here, that if you share what you've got, you get more. And if you hang on to what you have and keep it just for yourself, you get less. So by sharing the merit out with other people, we set in motion a process of linking and connectivity, which allows more and more beneficial, enlivening winds to blow across the land. So we make our confession as a way also of generating merit, because a big cause of demerit or limitation or negativity is to over-identify with a particular definition of yourself. Some people have habits of self-hatred, self-contempt. They might starve themselves, cut themselves, and so on. They might think, I'm worthless, I'm useless. This is an idea. It is not intrinsic to the mind. It manifests due to causes and conditions according to situations in families and culture. But as long as we fuse our sense of self into this limiting definition, we paralyze ourselves. We limit our capacity to mobilize the widest spectrum of our life potential. So when we confess in front of the Buddhas, we are saying, I have done this, and this is not who I really am. That is to say that the action, whether it's a mental action of belief or a verbal action of speaking or of embodied physical action, these are all communications of subject and object. These are activities. Activities have a beginning, a middle, and an end. We maintain our addiction by repetition. If you are a cigarette smoker, one cigarette is never enough. So if you hate yourself, one negative thought about how bad you are is never enough. And if you can catch the moment of that activity, then you see, oh, I am making myself bad. And if I become so fused in continuously telling myself who I am, there will be no space for any revelation of the simple actuality of my being. So confession is a method of disidentification, which releases the energy of our potential so that it can be directed towards life-affirming, wisdom-oriented, compassion-oriented activity. And we rejoice in the merit done by other people. I want you to be happy. I'm glad that you are producing the causes of happiness. So when we have a heartfelt celebration of the good aspects of other people's existence, it's a very expansive feeling. And this serves to free us from the prison of comparing and contrasting and working out where we are in the hierarchy of value. So again, it's about a connectivity. And we request the Buddhas to teach. That is to say, I need something from you. I need help. I am not complete. Now, we probably know about our own ego self that it is a way of considering ourselves as if we were already fully formed. I am complete in myself. But when we ask the Buddhas to teach, it's because we realize I have a big lack. I have a lot of feelings and emotions and sensations, but these are all impermanent. I want to get the permanent happiness of enlightenment, and I don't know where to get it. I don't know how to get it. So we turn to the Buddha. And then we ask the Buddhas not to pass into enlightenment. They are already enlightened, but our fear is that they will vanish. We say, don't leave us in this darkness. You have the light. I depend on your light because my light is not very bright. So this again is a very deep reorienting idea. If we think of the different cultures where there is no sense of the Buddha's teaching of wisdom and compassion, then the concern is usually just to get as much money as possible and power over other people. This is the kind of worst self-referential tendency of the ego. So when the Buddha is present in the world, present in our world, it's like she or he is a kind of reminder that there is more to us than we can see at the moment. So then we, of course, we dedicate the merit for the benefit of all beings. And this so-called 7-branch practice is repeated in many of the texts in this book. These are all means of coming out of isolation into benign and ethical connectivity. Then we have some section on honoring the Buddha, which comes from Shantideva. It's describing the good qualities of the Buddha and how we would like to offer worship by offering food and music and bathing and so on. And these are very beautiful images. You're saying, I want to be close to you. If you cook for someone, it's quite intimate. They're going to eat the food you have prepared. In social life, feeding people is a bonding activity. Well, there are beautiful descriptions of how we can participate in providing beautiful environments and beautiful experiences for the Buddha. Now you might think, oh, but this is all just some imagined fantasy. How will it help me with my daily life where there are a lot of real difficulties? But what we take to be real life, the precise configurations of getting children to school, getting to work on time, and so on, these are things we imagine. We imagine we should get the children to school. We might think, oh, if I don't do that, we'll get in trouble. You might imagine that getting trouble from the state is very serious. Or you could imagine it's not very serious. Some people imagine it's very important to get an injection against the virus, and other people imagine it's something very terrible to get an injection against the virus. Scientific facts become powerful when people believe in them. So belief is important. Belief is the activating energy of the mind. So when we read about the Buddhas and imagine our closeness to them, it creates an imaginal world or a symbolic world. And this is again like having a stick. If you have a tent and you put the stick in the middle, you lift the tent up in the air so you can stand inside. You're allowing yourself to entertain a wider view of what is possible. This kind of encounter with possibilities is very important in Buddhism. Because when we think of the 6 realms of samsara, the God realms, the jealous God realms, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, hell realms, these are ways of saying, don't get so absorbed in the micro details of your daily life. Don't think that what you know about yourself is the whole truth. Oh, we have the depth of emptiness and the vastness of compassion. And then we have the self-enclosure of the ego. So when we come in contact with the Dharma idea, like the Buddhas being recipients of beautiful garments offered by us, we can think, oh, this is stupid. This doesn't happen. I know the truth. And that kind of thought simply turns the lock on your own prison tighter and tighter. I'm not interested in fantasy. I want facts. And I am the one that knows what is a fact. I exist. For the Buddhas, that's not a fact. That's a fantasy. It's not a total fantasy. You are here, not as something reliable that will live forever, but not also as nothing at all. You are your experience as it arises in this moment. And this moment is interpreted or imagined according to our lineages. With the lineage of obscuration, we interpret in terms of duality and solidity. And if we open ourselves to the lineage of light, we see that our experience is in ceaseless flow, endlessly changing, interacting. So then we have some ritual for taking refuge and for taking the bodhisattva vow. And this whole book is structured in a form for recitation, whether you recite it with the Tibetan pronunciation or just the English. It provides the ritual structure to take these the refuge vows and the bodhisattva vows according to the tradition of Chimad Rigzin. These are ways of establishing our belonging within the within the family of Dharma. Through taking the bodhisattva vow, we become a child of the Buddha. We take our place inside this family of virtue because now our life has meaning. I take refuge in order to not get lost. And the reason I don't want to be lost is because I want to help all beings gain enlightenment. So I commit myself to not forgetting sentient beings. I think about animals. I think about the fish in the sea. I include them in my good wishes. And the more I offer good wishes to all species, to all kinds of beings, I find that they all have value. So valuing the presence or the immediate life quality of all the different kinds of sentient beings frees me from bias and prejudice. With this, we can start to develop equanimity. Equanimity means we release ourselves from reactivity. Usually, if something good happens in our lives, we're laughing, ha ha ha. And if something bad happens, then we become despondent and we are crying, oh, oh, oh. That is to say, we think happiness is better than suffering. Both are empty of inherent existence. That doesn't mean that we should say they are exactly the same, but no one's happy all the time and no one is sad all the time. These are events. They arise due to causes and circumstances, and they vanish due to causes and circumstances. Seeing their unreliability, we don't put our weight or our search for meaning onto these transient events. We are here. What is this experience of being present? Something continues, but it's not my sense of self. Because the self is the site of reactivity, but mindfulness and presence and awareness, they are a little different. So when we take the bodhisattva vow and we say, in this and all my future lives, I will work for the benefit of others, we give ourselves a very different frame of reference. Many, many, many beings, all needing my help. And therefore I will need many, many lives. So this is something expansive. If you really engage your mind like this, it's like blowing up a balloon for a party and blowing it so much it bursts. The ego is burst open. Some people say, oh, I couldn't take the bodhisattva vow, I'm not ready. But nobody is ready to take the bodhisattva vow. It's not something that a rational person could promise to do. So there is a kind of paradoxical move. Although I see myself as an ordinary person, if I take the bodhisattva vow, I truly am transformed into a bodhisattva. Sentient beings can't free all sentient beings. It's difficult enough to keep your job going and to be nice to your family. To think you're going to make your neighbors happy, that's quite something. Now you're going to make all the people you don't like happy. I don't know how. So this is exactly the point. The ego's self-referential positioning, I have to know, I have to be in charge, collapses in the face of this vast intention. Because in order to actually fulfill the bodhisattva vow, to go from thinking about it to actually doing it, we have to engage in the practice. So there are lots of details in the book about the different levels of bodhisattva vow. And in order to do the practice, we have to understand something about emptiness. So again, we have a version of the Heart Sutra here, but embedded in an extended practice of honoring the word of the Buddha. Devotion is really important for Dharma practice. With devotion, we develop the capacity to give ourselves to the practice, to the Dharma, to the teaching situation. It's a way of offering ourselves without holding back. When we honor the word of the Buddha, we become aware that although there are many films and television programs and books to read, none of these, if they are general productions, have very much to do with liberation. Huge resources are put into entertainment. We have all the productions of Hollywood and the video games industry and so on. When we reflect on death and impermanence, we see that our present situation will not last for long. Today we can have our nice little room with our Dharma books and maybe a little shrine, and we imagine we're going to practice. But when we die, then the children say, oh, I don't know what Dad saw in these things. How can we get rid of them? So in the text they say, if you really see that you're going to die, you should be like a person whose hair is on fire. No? So that is the very opposite of entertainment, that we have to shock ourselves out of the somnolence, the complacency of, oh, this is who I am, this is how my life is. So then we come on to the second half of the book, which is various texts dealing with being born in Dewachen. Dewachen means a happy place. In our lives, even if we have reasonably secure financial situation, there are still many problems which arise, which distract us from practice. Difficulties arise very easily from climate change, from the invasion of countries by communists and so on. And even in our daily life, there are many factors which are saying worldly concerns are important and you need to function well in society. So Dewachen arose from the vow that was made by a bodhisattva who later manifested as Buddha Amitabha. So it was traditional in these ancient times when some great person took the bodhisattva vow that they developed a very precise intention according to their own activities and structure. So this bodhisattva said, when I gain enlightenment, I will use all my accumulations of merit and wisdom to generate a pure land, a Buddha realm, where enlightenment is easy. I will take many difficulties and burdens onto myself in order that future generations will be able to access an ideal place for practice and not face the same difficulties as I do. So this great vow allowed Buddha Amitabha to overcome so many difficulties on the path to enlightenment. Just as if we read the stories of the previous lives of Buddha Shakyamuni, we see him in many different difficult situations, overcoming his own self-centeredness in order to be available for others. So, general idea is that Dewachen lies west of here, beyond countless world systems. It's in the western direction of the setting sun. And Buddha Amitabha is red in color, so he looks like a little bit like the color of the setting sun. This is linked with the western direction of the mandala, the purification of desire. And this tradition is very ancient, so it has been elaborated very much over the years by great scholars and practitioners. So generally, we say Buddha Amitabha is the Dharmakaya form, or the enlightened form of the Buddha's mind. And from him manifest the Sambhogakaya forms of Chenrezi or Avalokiteshvara and Tara. And from Chenrezi, from his heart comes a letter 3, which manifests as Padmasambhava, the Nirmanakaya form. So this is the outer lineage of light. Padmasambhava came into the world in a physical, well, in a form that looked like a physical form and was able to relate to many different people. So in the tantric system, the purification of desire is the wisdom of true discernment, which means seeing each thing precisely as it is. That is to say, it's an invitation to bring your attention through your senses into the moment by moment precision of whatever is occurring. It can be quite shocking to realize quite how dull we are. You can go out of your house and walk to the shops without really noticing very much. You know what's there, nothing to be surprised about. And so this dull complacency hides the freshness of the emergent moment. So when we read these various prayers and visualizations of the pure land of Amitabha, there is a lot of detail about what we see. And this seeing is very important because Amitabha means limitless light. So when you are born in this pure land, you are born in a lotus. And if you have full faith, the lotus immediately opens. But if you have had some doubts, the lotus bud will stay closed. And you have to live inside this lotus flower for some time until you gain the purification of hearing the beautiful sounds. So again, we can see it is always about connectivity, precise attention to detail without grasping, without judgment. So if you're born in this pure land, every day you can receive teachings from Amitabha himself, and you can travel to other Buddha realms and see other Buddhas and receive teachings and then come home in the afternoon. Again, you might think, but this is some fantasy story. So we have to remember the basic teachings on emptiness. Everything is like a dream, like a rainbow, like a mirage. This is the truth of all phenomena. Dewachen is not real. There's nothing real to be found. Real indicates something And there is no thingness. There is no inherent existence in any appearance. That's why if your eyes open and your heart opens and your mind opens, when you go out of your house and you walk in the street, it is amazing. This street is manifesting now, where this means this. When this refers to, oh, we know what the street is called, we know where it is, we know some of the people who live in it, that this is the this of the graveyard. It's already dead. And because it's dead, it doesn't move. That's why you can have the confidence to predict how it is. But then you can see why your cat is much wiser than you. The cat lives in a very fresh world. It goes out the door, looking around, sniffing the air. It's not assuming that it knows what is there. It's looking. Oh, this allows some possibility, some of the potential of the environment to be revealed. If the cat thought, I didn't catch the bird yesterday, what's the point of trying today? Then it will just sleep its whole life away. But the cat is hopeful. Today is a new day, another chance for victory. So I have to watch what this little bird is doing. It's always doing something different. So, but we, lucky in our heavy human body, don't look so much. And of course, as we have touched on many occasions, what we see is always light. We imagine people, houses, motor cars. Light is ceaselessly patterning in dappling colors. So Amitabha, Limitless Light, is his name is pointing to the fact that we are in a realm of light. And if you don't reify it, if you don't solidify it with your concepts, then you find, oh, this is very fresh. It's arising and vanishing, arising and vanishing. So what would I grasp? In the realm of light, there is nothing to grasp. There is everything to appreciate. The ceaseless display of sound and light and smell, all of which is described in detail for Dewachen by the unimpeded flow of sounds, smells, and so on coming in through the senses, and by the availability of attention flowing out through the senses, we start to feel the unimpeded movement of the non-dual world. So maybe you can start to see the logic of being born in a realm of light, where people are attentive to light as light. This is a wonderful encouragement to be as light in the realm of light. You can go to Dewachen in this life, in your own body. You can go there in dreams, you can go there in meditation. When we see that everything is imagined, imagination is the energy of manifestation. What we call imagination is a quality of light. The light can be simply illuminating. Concepts also are not very different from light. They arise and vanish and in themselves are ungraspable. But when you look through concepts at light, it becomes opaque. And then we have the solidification of our world, where with the orientation of consumerist capitalism, many things become very important. If we go back 100 years ago, many of the things that are so important now were not present then, and life went on. So if you have a mobile phone, you can walk down the street talking to someone who is not there. This is amazing. But now people are less and less amazed by it. It becomes ordinary life. So there's a kind of sleepiness or dullness or assumption, which again covers over the amazing thing of speaking into a piece of plastic. So Dewachen, the pure land of Amitabha, means the realm of fresh eyes. perception unclouded by conceptual interpretation. So when we recite these prayers, we are opening ourselves up to an imaginal horizon. We're getting to know our profound capacity for imagining. Samsara and nirvana are mental events. They are imagined dimensions. Wars begin when I imagine that you are my enemy. And of course, I don't even know that I'm imagining that you are my enemy. I know that you are my enemy. My thoughts tell me the truth. This is the 100% gold standard stupidity. Because if I trust myself and I'm right, I don't need to listen to anyone. Kill the enemy. It's obvious, kill them. We see in many countries across the world, the annihilation of the opposition is seen to be something affirmative of the value of good citizens. The president tells the truth. Good people align themselves with the truth. They conform. If people don't conform, this is a sign they are bad. This kind of meaningless pseudo logic is very powerful. This is an imagined interpretation of the world. This is imagination misunderstood as the true vehicle of how it is. So, in order to appreciate Dewachen, we want to relax the judge that lives inside us, the one that's always evaluating and saying this is better than that, and just allow ourselves to imagine the felt sense of this environment. It's like going to the theater. In the theater, we suspend disbelief. You have to give yourself into the dynamic of the film or the play or the opera. So Dewachen is like this. It's a field, an expanse in which the movement of the imagination can bring forth a rich, almost tactile sensory experience. And if you like, it's a kind of preparation for tantric practice. Because in the Dechen Mondam, we're imagining what it would be like to be there. But in Tantra, we're imagining the immediate actuality of what we visualize. We're looking at Padmasambhava or Tara. We see them looking at us, smiling at us. We recite the mantra and we feel the immediate dynamic energy of connectivity. And then we can dissolve that construction or that imagined potential back into its ground, which is emptiness. All the Buddhist schools agree that the mind is the most important thing. It's not a thing, it's more like the medium through which life is expressing itself. So I think this kind of Mahayana practice is very useful for all of us. I translated most of these texts with Sia Lama a long time ago. We did all these practices together in Shantiniketan in India. And it's very helpful not to become too narrow-minded in Dharma. There are many Dharma paths. And although our lives are short and we have many busy things to do, if you open yourself into these Mahayana pathways of devotion, you find that it's like an internal massage. It's softening you up. We put our hands together and we pray, please may I be born there. This is where I need to be. And when we die and the mind separates from its home in the body, the elements dissolve, and you cannot go back into what you know, then the winds of karma easily carry us in all kinds of directions. So the simplicity of devotion and genuine faith helps to give us a simple pathway into rebirth in a pure land. If I go back to Scotland, to where I was born, people who I don't know are living in my house. If I try to go into my school, they say, hey, why are you coming into school? Are you a pedophile? You don't belong here. My past exists nowhere except in my mind. My Scotland doesn't exist out there. When we look at our own life, the past is gone. The future, we don't know. Politics is changing very rapidly now, economic situation changing very rapidly. In the midst of this, faith in the Buddha, faith in the Pure Land is very, very gentle and supportive for the heart. My sad sense is that we are entering into times of ever increasing anxiety. There are many signs of increasing agitation in climate change with floods and fires, and this will affect food supplies and so on. So it's vital to have simple practices to help settle us in ourselves. And there is no contradiction between Mahayana Buddhism and Dzogchen. Both are concerned with the infinite depth of primordial purity or emptiness and the infinite display of phenomena or compassion. So if you're interested, you can order this book. It's by Lama and James Lowe. Probably most people have to buy it through Amazon. Distribution of books is quite difficult at this time. And it's unfortunately expensive because distributors can fix their own price for the book. But when you consider that these texts have been recited by millions of Tibetans for many, many years with great devotion, including the great meditation masters, I think you will find some real value in the book. Okay, so we come to the end for our time today. And we have a weekend at the beginning of December, looking at the Dzogchen text, which is in the Finding Freedom book. And if you come to that teaching, you will see that this Dzogchen instruction is not very different from what we find in Longing for Limitless Light. So we say thank you to our lovely translators this evening who've made it possible for many people to connect. And I wish you a very good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 James.
Bye. Thank you, James.
Bye, James.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Obrigada.
Oh, hello, Yana. Bye.
Bye bye, beauties.
Bye.